When it comes to the strongest ninja in Naruto's generation, one character who surprisingly gets overlooked quite a bit is Rock Lee. It's not hard to see why a lot of people sleep on just how overpowered Rock Lee was being set up to be. After his battle with Gar in the tuning exams, where he managed to pressure a Jinchuuriki of the One Tails, his next biggest moment was his battle with Kimimaro, the strongest member of the Sound 5. After that, Rock Lee was a bit of an afterthought, never really getting a moment to show what he can do until we get to the war arc, and even then, what we get to see is very sporadic, and I'm only counting the manga, so I'm not counting the fight they had in the tuning exams when he fought with the dude from the Sand Village. Now, with the Boruto era showing us our favorite ninjas as grown adults with families of their own, a lot of people have asked on more than one occasion, how powerful is Rock Lee during Boruto Naruto Next Generations? Well, in this True Power series Konoha edition, I'm gonna break down the true power of Rock Lee. Rock Lee pretty much embodies one of the main themes that the Naruto franchise focused on, especially very early on in its creation, which is that hard work and perseverance can overcome almost any obstacle that is placed before you. Having no ninjutsu to call his own, many expected Rock Lee to never become a ninja, and yet his focus on taijutsu alone made him one of the most powerful members of Naruto's generation. So just how much did his focus on physical training pay off? Well, remember that scene from Naruto the Last where Rock Lee and a group of other ninja using the inner gates pushed back and destroyed a meteor? Well, in the novelization for Naruto the Last, it goes a step further than what we actually saw in the movie version. Rock Lee in the novelization for the Last, by himself and without any help, directly shattered one of the meteors that fell towards Konoha. As early as part 1 of Naruto, Rock Lee was shown being able to casually rip trees from their roots and being able to move faster than a Sharingan was able to keep up with, minus Kakashi's more seasoned and well-equipped Sharingan. He was able to outspeed Gar's sand defense. During the war arc, Rock Lee's speed got even more insane, being able to casually intercept Haku, who was pretty damn fast himself, especially when he's being unrestrained. 15 years between Naruto chapter 699 and Naruto Gaiden, which follows the events of Sarada going out to look for Sasuke, Rock Lee constantly trained, growing more and more powerful with insane training methods where even when he was asleep, if his will was strong enough, just off of pure muscle memory and willpower, Rock Lee could continue to train or fight if that's what he willed his body to be. As a youth, Rock Lee was able to unlock the first 5 inner gates only after getting a year and a half of training with Might Guy. By the time of the time skip of Shippuden, Rock Lee managed to master the 6th gate. To put this into perspective, Kakashi could only open up the 1st gate, and this is Kakashi, someone who was a genius in his own right, wasn't able to do, and he obviously had years to train to unlock more, though it's unclear if Kakashi saw the disadvantages of using the inner gates and didn't progress any further, but still it's pretty impressive that Rock Lee can do something that Kakashi can't. Now this next bit of information, I'm not gonna lie to you, this came as a huge surprise to me. So as an adult, during the 15 years between Sasuke leaving the village and Naruto Gaiden, Rock Lee actually learned how to open up the 8th gate. This is insane, given how insanely powerful Rock Lee's base form is. When you add up the multiplier of the inner gates and the 100 times multiplier of the 8th gate, Rock Lee very well could possess even more power than Might Guy displayed in his battle with Ten Tails Jinchuuriki Madara. It really comes down to how powerful you think Rock Lee's base is, and if you think that base Rock Lee is stronger than base Might Guy from the war arc. Before anyone gets irritated by this, I just like to say this much, and I'm not the biggest Rock Lee fan, but I will say this. It took Lee years to master getting to the progress of the 6th gate after opening the first 5 gates, and it appears as if it took him close to a decade to progress to opening up the final gate, which makes this power very earned. It wasn't something that was given to him by some creepy grandpa sage who touched 2 little boys and gave them a huge power up. Now, to further put this into perspective for you, while Rock Lee wasn't a jonin by the events of Naruto the Last, he was skilled enough that Kakashi saw fit to make Rock Lee the leader of a very new group for Konoha. This was called Konoha Suicide Corps, and if you read the novelization for Naruto the Last, you know exactly what I'm referring to. Literally, this is a team of Konoha's most talented taijutsu users who can unlock the inner gates, and it's not that many of them. Given how difficult it is to unlock the inner gates, you can see why this number of ninja is very small. In the novelization, there are only 5 members, and in the movie version, we see Rock Lee leading a team of 7 fighters who can use the inner gate. These ninja, when working together, can use the crane wing formation. Lining up side by side and entering into the inner gates, these fighters charge at their opponent. The aura of each of these ninjas blends together, taking on the formation of a crane that's spreading its wings. The force of the chakra in the attack slices through the target with ease, particularly if these fighters are in the 6th gate. In the movie version, this collective was able to destroy most of a meteor falling towards the village, and then Rock Lee followed it up with a punch, and the novelization and followed up on his own with the punch, destroying a meteor on his own. It's here we're gonna move to the inner gates, because I just want to stress just how special Rock Lee's Suicide Core is, because the fact that you even have 7 people in Konoha who can use the inner gates shows that Konoha's freaking overpowered. Now, the inner gates themselves are chakra limiters that block the chakra pathway system from being able to use too much chakra for a person inside their body all at once. The whole idea is to protect the person from themselves by not allowing them to access too much power at once. To remove these limits requires intense training just to unlock the first gate, as stated when I talked about what happened with Kakashi. However, with each gate that's unleashed, the amount of power jumps up several fold, but it comes to an enormous price to the body, given the fact that it deals out an enormous amount of damage to whoever uses it. I want you guys to think about it like Deku's quirk in My Hero Academia, where early on when he was using it, his body was being wrecked in the process. Now, the immense flood of chakra and the skyrocketing levels of power that the user leaps up to shouldn't be underrated. As the number of gates increases, the user's veins pop out of their body, their skin changes color, and their eyes turn into a very white shade that's extremely creepy to look at. The sweat evaporates from the body at such a high rate that it can be mistaken for chakra. When Rock Lee enters into his 8th gate, using the 8 gates release formation, his power once again is multiplied by 100 times that of his base. Rock Lee has to puncture himself right above his heart. Then that causes a red steam to evaporate from his body. The level of heat that his body rises to is on a completely different level than any of the inner gates he used before, boiling his blood, cooking his body from the inside out, to the point that when it reaches its climax, Rock Lee only has a few moments before his body begins to crumble into ashes. The stronger Rock Lee's base is, the more powerful his inner gates will become, and by default, more powerful the 8-gate version will become. For those of you who know me from my old channel, know that I did Dragon Ball videos quite a lot, so to put it this way, the 8th gate is the equivalent of the original Super Saiyan 2 transformation, which was stated in the Daizenshu to be over 100 times that of the base. Now, Rock Lee's dynamic entry is his jumping kick that he uses to attack his enemy from a blind spot, and the sheer force of this attack can break through solid defenses with ease. The primary lotus starts out with a kick that sends the enemy into the air. Rock Lee then jumps into the air after them, moving at high speeds himself. Lee then wraps his bandages around his enemy to keep them from moving. After he does this, Rock Lee then waits for the target to reach their highest point of ascent. Lee then tightens his grip around them and begins to direct their body to fall in a spiraling motion. Lee then slams their head into the ground, with him leaping out of the way. Lee only needs to use the first inner gate to use this attack, but when you look at this, he can also combine it with as many of the inner gates as he wants, making the brutal impact that much more damaging. Now, the main drawback to this is that the more inner gates that he uses in combination with the primary lotus, the more fatigued he'll become, leaving him open for attacks if the person survives. Now, in his base form, Rock Lee can perform the leaf drop, which is a falling axe kick that packs a similar punch to the attack that Tsunade used when she attacked Kabuto and Orochimaru in part 1 of Naruto, when Orochimaru asked Tsunade to heal his arms. And when you look at what Tsunade did, she destroyed a good bit of the area that she was in, and it was stated by Kabuto that the attack was powerful enough that if it would have hit, it would have killed he and Orochimaru on impact. Now, Rock Lee's variation is strong enough that if Rock Lee's serious, he can destroy an entire area if he connects it in his base. So when you add the inner gates multiplier, you get an idea for how insane this attack can become. Now, back during his youth, Rock Lee was shown being able to send Naruto flying all the way across the room with a very casual leaf whirlwind kick, which is a high speed spinning kick. Now, I bring that up to say that when Rock Lee is serious, as shown in this battle with Kimimaro, when he uses the leaf great whirlwind kick, it's a series of spinning kicks. Rock Lee spins so fast that when he kicks, he's being lifted off the ground, and when he happens to kick the person, he's actually doing so in a very methodical method. First, the first kick lands in the lower area of the body, the second kick lands in the middle, and the third kick lands in the upper area of the target, and then it repeats itself. When Rock Lee finishes, he finishes off with the heel drop that I mentioned before. At the speed that Rock Lee's moving at when he uses this attack, his enemy literally can't see him coming. Now, another insane speed attack that he has is his one-man front lotus, where Rock Lee spins his body so fast that he creates gusts of winds around his body that raises himself into the air. And as Rock Lee reaches his peak, Rock Lee basically suicide torpedoes himself onto his enemy with an even more powerful version of the lotus attack being used. So once again, when you combine that with the inner gates, Rock Lee is extremely scary to face in battle. As you guys can see, while Rock Lee can't use ninjutsu and is perhaps one of the most powerful in the Naruto universe, you can't take that away from him. Now that we know for certain that Rock Lee can indeed use the 8th gate, we have to have a very serious conversation about whether or not Rock Lee might actually be stronger than Might Guy, who is in the 8th gate, and we have to have the conversation, is Rock Lee actually stronger than Ten Tails Jinchuuriki Madara? It's something we got to consider now. But I want to know from you guys, how powerful do you think that Rock Lee is? Do you think he's in that very small class of ninja who can fight evenly and defeat Jinchuuriki Madara? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.